In terms of the writing, then, were they written the more orchestral songs versus the more solitary songs? Were they written far apart?
Not too much. I mean, the writing took a while. A couple of the songs are from the Kaputt days, but there were songs which I just didn't want to give a pop treatment to, so I thought that they should sound sad. And so I didn't want to try and put them on the Kaputt record. I didn't think it would work. And other ones, like kind of the ones that sound more like ballads, like Bangkok or Hell, you know. Those are kind of songs where I sat down at the piano, you know, and kind of pieced them together.
What would influence these songs? Because I wrote a line down from Hell, but maybe it's too early to talk about the lyrics. But for instance, was Hell one of the early ones? Then was that left over from the Kaputt?
No,
Okay.
no. The ones left over from Kaputt were a song called "Girl in a Sling,"
Okay.
which I think is maybe the most successful of the, as far as like a mix that represents kind of what I was thinking of or trying to do is these kind of neo-romantic string arrangement ballads.
What influenced this? Was there something particular?
I think I've been listening to a lot of that kind of music more than rock music. Like if there's rock songs on the record, it's just because that's what the band does, and we kind of like fall into that quite naturally. But as far as what I was consciously trying to steer the record into is you know, like I've always listened to like a lot of Scott Walker records.
Okay.
I was listening to a lot of Frank Sinatra, as always. Starting around the Kaputt days, I was listening to a lot of jazz music, you know? And that songbook is, you know, kind of more those classic American composers, you know?
Right.
Maybe some jazz vocalists. So I think that started to maybe seep into my writing without really thinking about it.
And is it, I assume this is mostly in terms of the music, or did it inspire the way you use your vocals as well?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. Like when I think of a song like Bangkok, I think those kind of phrasings, that kind of delivery, kind of pre rock and roll world,
Right.
Was something that I was feeling. Yeah, and then I mean, also the person who did the string arrangements just came up with things that I never would have thought of myself. So that was kind of an exciting way of working.
Because I believe you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because I believe you recorded with a five.
Like a quintet. Yeah. Yeah, he wrote the arrangements all before we went into the studio. Okay. And they're, you know, in a lot of ways more opulent than what I pictured. I always, for some reason, I imagined like more of like a basic, easy listening style of arrangement, but I think Stefan is not that into pop music. He's more into like, I don't know, he likes dissonance, and he likes 20th century classical music, I think. But he also likes liturgical music and like medieval music, early religious music. So all those weird influences, which I just never heard inside of the song itself, all of a sudden became a force, you know? And that's kind of part of recording that I really love. It's just like seeing a song take off in some just extreme direction that you never predicted.
Is that particular with the Times Square Poison Season?
Definitely,
song, or?
yeah. I mean, that one I just didn't really know. I just really liked both versions, you know. I knew that I wanted to have a version that was like quite solemn. And kind of alone sounding, but then also, you know, when I wrote this song, it's one of the few songs that I actually picked up a guitar to write, and it had this kind of like 70s style strumminess to it that reminded me of like a Lou Reed song or something like that, which is, I think, kind of the kind of vibe that the band is really good at bashing out, and we did, and it felt, I don't know, it felt really good to play the song like that and sing it like that. And it just felt like it gave the song multiple meanings, you know, to have these different versions.
You mentioned the influence of artists like Frank Sinatra. Was Lou Reed a big influence then? Is that someone who you enjoy?
Lou Reed is someone who is not, it's like not someone I've been listening to a lot lately, but he's someone I've constantly go back to since the very first time that I started making music, like over 20 years ago. He's yeah, kind of an interesting figure for me, you know.
What makes him interesting to you?
I find such vast diversity of quality in his songs. I find that fascinating. Like there's songs of his that I just think are so kind of heartbreaking and poetic, and other ones which are just so shitty. It's like the whole world in between. I don't know, there's few artists who I think have that kind of spectrum. But when it's something that is good, I think like there's few songwriters that speak to me more than he does. I don't know. I think he's like that for anyone who's ever had any interest in sticking poetry into music, you know? He's like one of the originals. I think I also, though, have become more into, I've gotten more into like very melodious singers as I've gotten older. When I was younger, I really liked Lou Reed's style of like his very like conversational way of singing. It was something that I kind of wanted a piece of. I felt it's kind of a style that came naturally to me, so I liked it.
But then the poetic element, as you say, is that something that you strive for as well in a way, right?
I think I used to. I don't know if I strive for it anymore.
Okay. Why not anymore then?
I don't know. I think I just really used to love ramming words into songs, you know, and trying to like just spit them out in an interesting way. And I love like very kind of heavy, dense imagery and language that kind of ran all over itself. And I don't really hear that in Destroyer music anymore, you know? It was not really on Kaputt. I think that's one of the reasons why people liked Kaputt. It was the complete absence of that. Things got simpler, you know, there's less words. And the vocal melodies were pretty easy to follow, you know? And I think I'm now just more into like phrasing and melody and you know, like words as part of a bigger whole in the song, you know. Yeah.
What role do lyrics play then for you? Do they play the same role as they did in previous records? Is it still to tell a story in a sense?
I think maybe they play a different role. I'm not exactly sure, you know. It's the one part of what I do that is completely just instinctual, you know? It's always the thing that comes first,
Okay.
by far. It's the thing that comes easiest. I don't give it a second thought. I just kind of like come up with these phrases, and they either like speak to me or, you know, move me, or they're just forgotten. So it's hard for me to analyze exactly what their role is, the words themselves, but I know when it's come time to like sing them, whether on stage or into a microphone to record them, there seems to have been a shift that started a few years back, you know, where the words and the music were no longer really fighting each other in a way that they used to, because I used to really like that fight. I thought it was a good fight. I don't know, I guess I've just become more obsessed with creating something that seems beautiful to me, or just like really captures a certain tone, instead of just like puncturing the music with this kind of crazy ranting.